The mahogany table between us gleamed like a casket as Mr. Wilson slid the document across its surface. My fingertips went numb when I read the first line. Every asset, house, accounts, insurance, all of it to my brother Nathan. And for me, my mother's recipe book and a dusty box of baseball cards from the attic. "Jessica," my mother said, her voice softening into that familiar placating tone she'd used since I was 7. "You've always been so good at taking care of yourself." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps as my father cleared his throat. "You've built a successful business. Nathan needs more security." My brother didn't meet my eyes. Instead, he examined his watch. The one I knew cost $3,000, while absently tapping his Italian leather shoe against the leg of his chair. The sound drilled into my skull with each tap. Then came the hidden explosive, buried in the attorney's monotone recitation of numbers. A new $275,000 mortgage on my parents' home. The same $2,800 monthly payment I'd been making for them, thinking I was helping with property taxes. They hadn't needed help. They'd remortgaged their paid-off house to fund Nathan's latest sure thing, an upscale sports bar. My lungs felt lined with cement as I managed to ask, "And you expect me to keep making those payments?" The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats before my father's eyes fixed on the table. "We would appreciate your continued support during this transition." The word transition hung in the air like poison gas. They weren't planning for death. They were planning for me to keep funding them indefinitely while giving everything to Nathan. My brother finally spoke, rolling his eyes like I was being dramatic. "It's not like you need their money." "My name is Jessica, I'm 32, and I built a contracting company from nothing but grit and stolen lunches. This is the story of how I stopped being my family's bank account and started being their wake-up call. I grew up in a Boston suburb where perfect lawns hid crooked foundations. From the sidewalk, we looked like a postcard family. Hard-working father, attentive mother, 2 children spaced precisely 3 years apart. Inside our Tudor-style home, love tilted toward my brother and never rebalanced. I was the checklist child. Straight A's were expected, not celebrated. Chores completed without reminders. Reliability so consistent it became invisible. Nathan was the headline, the emergency, the priority. His charm opened doors while his trouble held them. Attention gathered around him like moths to their porch light. When I graduated as valedictorian, we took photos at Applebee's and called it a celebration. A $50 gift card slid across the table, polite and distant. 2 weeks later, Nathan won regionals in baseball. The backyard filled with relatives, cousins cheering until midnight. A new gaming console wrapped in silver paper appeared, along with slaps on the back and toasts of sparkling cider. It wasn't the money that hurt. It was the enthusiasm. My achievements were noted. His were paraded. College separated our story into 2 columns. Despite my scholarship, I still owed more than I had. I worked mornings at a coffee shop that smelled like possibility, evenings shelving books at the library with other tired students, weekends swinging hammers for my uncle, blisters singing through my gloves. I learned spreadsheets at 2 a.m. and ceiling joists at 6. I learned that hunger becomes fuel when no one feeds you. Nathan attended a private university with mediocre grades and unwavering confidence. Tuition, housing, meal plan, even spending money, all covered without hesitation. When I asked why, my father smiled with weary logic. "Nathan isn't as independent as you, Jessica. He needs the support." The sentence landed like a door locking from the outside. My independence became the reason they withheld what I'd earned. My strength excused their favoritism. Sunday dinners kept the script running year after year. Nathan's newest venture filled the air like commercial breaks. My updates arrived last, then disappeared with the dishes. I drove home measuring silence by streetlights. I didn't need their money, I needed their fairness and never got it. I built Pearson Contracting from leftovers and stubborn mornings. My first office was a sublease above a bait shop that smelled of night crawlers and missed opportunities. Dust drifted through broken blinds like slow snow I couldn't afford to fix. I slept on a mattress rolled behind filing cabinets, alarm set for 4:30 a.m. 80-hour weeks blurred into invoices, ladders, and borrowed coffee. I learned to read blueprints and people with equal precision. My hands toughened, but I kept a soft ledger. Every dollar went back into tools, crew, insurance, and a used pickup truck with 187,000 miles on the odometer. Birthdays became punch lists. Vacations became postponed deliveries. Meanwhile, Nathan discovered a new purpose every season. Restaurant manager, real estate student, fitness trainer. He floated between jobs like a helium balloon losing air. Then he wanted a sports memorabilia store, shiny and certain. My parents remortgaged their house to fund his grand opening, $75,000 plus the kind of praise I'd never tasted. The shop died in 8 months. Excuses stacked higher than inventory shelves. They called it bad timing, not bad habits. When my father's chest tightened and the hospital bills came, I answered without counting. $32,000 for surgery and weeks of recovery. I delayed equipment upgrades and slept in the office again. Gratitude came in casseroles and cards, but expectation stayed, humming like a generator that never shut off. Sunday dinners kept staging Nathan as the centerpiece. I brought rolls. He brought promises wrapped in optimism. My updates were nice. His ideas were visionary, brave, destined. Sometimes love is applause. Sometimes it's an unpaid invoice. The mortgage problem arrived dressed as a confession. Property taxes are climbing. My mother sighed over dishes. I set up an automatic transfer. $2,800 every month. No contract, no timeline, just blood and a routing number. I told myself it was temporary and responsible. I told myself I was protecting our home and their retirement. I told myself fairness would meet me at the finish line. At night, I audited my life by hallway light. Spreadsheets glowed, and so did the questions I ignored. Was I helping or training them to need me? Was duty just another name for being useful? Work expanded, and so did our bids and crews. We finished a school gym, 3 commercial kitchens, and a walk-in clinic. Clients shook my hand like I'd poured the concrete slabs myself. I began to believe effort would buy me peace. The estate planning meeting would be the ledger finally balancing. I was wrong. So breathtakingly wrong. As Mr. Wilson droned on about asset allocation, something cracked inside me. Not like ice breaking, but like a dam giving way after years of pressure. Heat rushed up my neck as I slowly stood, my chair scraping against the expensive floor like a warning. "Let me make sure I understand," I said, my voice steadier than my hands. "I paid for Dad's surgery. I've covered your mortgage for years. I've given this family over $175,000 of support, and your response is to leave me a recipe book while giving Nathan everything?" My mother's eyes widened. This wasn't the script she'd expected. The compliant daughter who nodded and wrote checks was supposed to be sitting across from her, not this woman with steel in her voice. "It's not like that, honey," she started, but I held up my hand, the calluses catching the light. "It's exactly like that. You've mistaken my independence for immunity to pain. You've confused my strength for absence of need." I turned to the attorney. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Wilson." My father called after me, voice sharp with command. "Sunday dinner. We'll discuss this as a family." I stopped at the door without turning. Family. That's a word that should mean something. Then I walked out, leaving silence behind me. The elevator hummed me downward while my phone buzzed with texts from my mother, my father. Nathan's silence spoke volumes. I stared at the screen until my reflection blurred in its surface. This wasn't grief for money. It was grief for recognition that never arrived. Back at my office, I locked the door and let the tears flow for exactly 15 minutes. Then I wiped my face, opened my laptop, and prepared for what needed to be done. That evening, I canceled every automatic transfer without trembling. 2 clicks and the pipeline to their plans ran dry. My mother texted. "Mortgage is due," I replied. "Not mine," then silenced the thread. At my desk the next morning, I sorted through emails when the calls began at 9:17 a.m., stacked like falling bricks. From Dad. "Call immediately. This is unacceptable." From Mom. "Bank error. Please fix before 5. From Nathan. Nothing. Just entitlement, humming in absence. I opened a clean spreadsheet and built a ledger. Line by line, I wrote my history and numbers. Nathan's tuition support, $14,000. Dad's surgery and aftercare, $32,475. Home repairs, roof, plumbing, electrical, $20,550. Emergency bailouts, $15,000. Monthly transfers across years, $90,000 total, over $175,000, not including lost sleep. I called Margaret, my financial advisor, and locked down assets. Retainers paid, accounts insulated, personal and business finances clearly ring-fenced. I called Sarah, an attorney friend, and described the harassment. "Document everything," she said. "Consider a restraining order if needed." Then I called my parents from my office phone. "Transfers are canceled," I said. "Boundaries are in place." Dad's answer arrived sharp as a slammed door. "This childish behavior stops now. You have responsibilities." "I already fulfilled them 10 times over," I said, listing the totals. He called them exaggerations. Gaslighting tried to rewrite math. Math refused to move. The campaign escalated sideways and below the belt. My mother phoned 3 of my clients and 2 suppliers, hinting I was unstable, overspent, overwhelmed. Michael from another firm warned me over beers. She asked if stress had made you irrational. They weaponized worry to corrode my credibility at work. They didn't realize I'd already welded my reputation in steel. I drafted a concise timeline with receipts and statements, then shared it selectively with extended family. Aunt Emma read it twice, then called everyone else, all 7 cousins and both my uncles from Dad's side. Narrative corrected. She texted me. A one-woman newsroom. Cousins stopped parroting pity and started asking hard questions. Without secrecy, manipulation withered under plain daylight. Meanwhile, the mortgage clock kept its indifferent rhythm. 2 missed payments triggered formal bank notices after 60 days. Nathan's sports bar sputtered on half-empty nights. He took a part-time job and tasted consequence for perhaps the first time in his adult life. 3 days later, as I inspected progress at our downtown renovation site that they knew about from my mother's birthday dinner conversation, my parents ambushed me. Tears, threats, guilt. The entire family repertoire spilled out between stacks of lumber and confused workers. I didn't perform this time. I set a boundary. "Leave my workplace or I call security," I said, my voice level but firm. They left, stunned by the door that finally closed. That evening, I printed the ledger and signed it. Notarized truth, stamped and dated for the inevitable narrative war. I folded fear into a small, silent square. Then I filed it where I keep unprofitable tools. I slept through the first quiet night in years. Silence didn't accuse me. Silence congratulated me for staying upright. I had stopped their pipeline and started rebuilding my life on bedrock. 6 months passed before their letters replaced shouting. My father's handwriting, rigid and careful, filled a white page. He admitted what I had carried, what they had ignored. "For years, we expected too much and gave too little. Your anger is justified. We are sorry." For the first time, apology arrived without an invoice attached. They sold the house, downsized, and learned to budget. My mother took a modest job at an elementary school. My father consulted part-time, humbled and quieter. Nathan's sports bar closed permanently after 8 more months of struggle, and he finally found steady work managing a restaurant chain with accountability systems that kept his impulsivity in check. Life forced them into the adulthood they had delayed. I met Eric at a suppliers conference 8 months after the family fallout. He ran a sustainable lumber company and asked thoughtful questions about my projects. Our first date lasted 5 hours, discussing everything except my family drama. I didn't rush forgiveness. I let it arrive slowly, like cautious spring after bitter winters. Coffee with Dad became weekly. My mother learned how to ask, not demand. Nathan and I met for dinner last April where he admitted jealousy, resentment, and the truth of entitlement. We now text occasionally, mostly about neutral topics, but the relationship is healing gradually on equal terms. Meanwhile, I built more than contracts and payrolls. I built a life with Eric, steady and sincere. He loved me for myself, not for what I carried. Our wedding was small, honest, and unburdened. My parents attended, not as creditors, but as family. We finalized an agreement that acknowledged the $175,000 as a combination of gifts and loans, with a modest repayment plan for $50,000 of it, not because I needed it, but because accountability matters. Forgiveness didn't erase boundaries. It planted them firmly visible, respected. I chose to give a down payment for their condo. Not duty, not obligation, but a gift I wanted to give. This time, gratitude replaced entitlement. The lesson carved itself deep. Strength isn't punishment, and love isn't a balance sheet. I am not valuable because I provide. I am valuable because I exist. I walked away as their provider and returned as myself, unshaken. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.